The best food you can buy in a shop is never going to be as good as the food that you grow at home, for one reason.
How are you doing? This is Martin from Gardens for Life. We had our first homesteading workshop day and we were delighted with the turnout. It was actually sold out, same as the event that's actually coming up. It was a great day. We had 6 different workshops on, from growing your own food with no-dig gardening, to preserving food, to keeping chickens for egg production, herbal remedies, backup power and lights, and home brewing like winemaking, beer and cider. A big thank you to all of those who attended, especially to Margaret from Margaret's Kitchen in Roscommon for providing the aperitifs or the snacks. So in this video we're going to give you a quick insight into what it was like to actually be there. Unfortunately we didn't have much time to actually make videos of each of the workshops because we were just really busy setting up all of the props for each of the workshops and to actually go through the workshops as well and talk to people, answer questions and everything. We were delighted anyway. We got lots of new contacts and that's what it's all about. These kind of events are really great for networking as well. So if you are looking to come to one of these events, like the Homesteading Workshop Day for example, you can still book tickets. Just go to our website below. There are still some spaces left for the one after the next one. Don't forget the ancient edible tubers like the Jerusalem artichokes, mashua and oka are available on our website, as well as the cuttings like berry bush cuttings, currants, willows and poplars. So if you want to grow your own food or firewood, get on over to our website. Over the years, so many of you have asked us about all different types of books that you've seen either in our videos or in our house or at our workshops. So we actually brought a collection of our books to the workshop day. For those of you who didn't go to a workshop day, you can go to our website. I created a page where you can actually look at all of the books that we own, well most of them anyway, and you can help support us by buying it through our link. We'd highly appreciate it. Thanks very much. So there are books and other products that we recommend, all gardening and homesteading related.
The best food you can buy in a shop is never going to be as good as the food that you grow at home, for one reason. The main reason is because it's fresh. What you get in the garden is only 10 minutes old by the time you pick it and cook it, or even eat it fresh. And when you buy it in the shops, it'll always take a few days to get to you. And nutrients deteriorate even in the first half an hour to an hour when you pick the food. So people often ask like, oh, are you self-sufficient? And I say, no, we're not. Not at all. But we are a little bit self-sufficient in some of the things that we grow. For example, eggs. We have plenty of chickens, so we have plenty of eggs. Now, I want to explain to you the difference between self-reliance and self-sufficiency. Self-reliance is how long can you live comfortably without systems of support. So what that means is it's a period of time. Let's say if you have 2 months worth of food at home, you're self-reliant for that period of time. You can rely without having to go and buy more of it. But then your time is going to run out. What are you going to do after that? Well, that's where self-sufficiency comes in. Self-sufficiency is when you can, for example, grow your own kale or even a percentage of your own food indefinitely. So the self-sufficiency is a percentile of your needs. but self-reliance is only a limited period of time. Self-sufficiency is a term that gets thrown around a lot, and people say, oh, we're self-sufficient, yeah, but where do you get the grains from to actually feed your chickens? Let's say we have 3 months worth of grains, and that's my example here. We have 3 months worth of grain at home to feed our chickens. So we have 3 months worth of eggs, basically. And after that, what are we going to give them? Well, we actually give our chickens and all of our birds, all of our animals on the homestead, except for the cats, they won't eat vegetables. But all of the birds and all the rabbits, they get fresh greens every day. Since that we're keeping them in somewhat artificial environment, even if it's a huge space like the chickens have a 50-metre electric fence, and we'll talk about that more in the third workshop. So much better. We don't bother with cabbage at all anymore, because cabbage takes 6 months to form a head. And it takes up this much space, basically nearly a square metre in your garden, but then just in the hopes that you might get a head at the end of the year, or at the end of the growing season. And the trouble with that is, well, it can suffer from a lot of slug damage early on, and then it might not form a proper head, but also you have to wait before you can pick any of it. So, advantages of homesteading. So start small and keep diversifying. Like, just try one thing at a time. Don't try 10 different, don't get 10 different animals, and don't try all the different stuff. You might be very excited when you get land. And just try one thing at a time, and then just get that established. Like, if you're getting chickens, just get those, have the infrastructure first, and just then you can grow some food too. Maybe you should start with growing some food first in the garden, like vegetables, for example, or fruits, or berries, and then you have something to give to your animals too. So you can you can run all the systems off one another, and that's one of the advantages. You have something called whole systems design, which is something that Ben Falk does, where you have each of the systems that you have on your homestead and actually integrate them into one another. For example, we grow kale for our chickens and chard, and the chickens produce manure, and they mix it through the wood chips, that's their bedding, that's called deep litter mulch. We'll talk more about that later. And they make compost, so we bring that compost back into the garden. So the chickens are feeding the vegetables, and the vegetables are feeding the chickens. Now, of course, the most important thing is it increases your quality of life. I mean, growing your own food and actually producing it yourself. As I said, it is fresh, it has more nutrients, it has better flavour, and it gives you, it creates a lot of forms of capital as well. It creates financial capital in the form of savings. So you save money. Saved money is made money, is money that you make. So you can use that money on other projects instead of buying food in the shop, especially if it's expensive food. One thing you can look up on YouTube is 8 forms of capital. It's a really good video. It's not actually written here if you want to write that down. Just to give you an example, living capital, for example. Capital is great because especially for forest gardens, like we have a little forest garden about a 1/6 of an acre in size, and it's basically growing and growing. So inflation cannot harm it. It doesn't get affected by inflation at all, because it keeps getting bigger, and we keep on getting more cuttings and more fruit from it, and more mycelium, which is the roots of the mushroom, and it's just basically a perpetual system. And that's what you're trying to create with a homestead. Self-sufficient for vegetables. You're only self-reliant as long as you have seeds. So if you can get your vegetables, if you buy old varieties, like heirloom varieties, ideally, or at least not F1 varieties or all those other ones, you can actually get the seeds. You can take the seeds from your vegetables and you can get them and grow them on every year. So usually seeds are good for about 2 to 3 years, and then the viability goes down. So they'll be a lot less viable. And it depends on the storage as well. Growing food using no-dig gardening, that's our specialty, as some of you will know. Of course, we could stand here all day and talk about just no-dig gardening on its own, but we'll try to keep it brief, just because we'll try and give you ideas on how to get started. For those of you who haven't started yet, or if you have started, that's good, but you can you can take it a step further, if you like. Maybe you can apply some of the techniques or some of the materials to your existing gardens and actually make your gardens more productive and less maintenance. Cool down and for it to lose the pressure in order to open it and actually remove your jars. So it's safer to use for meat especially and for oily foods. Vegetables are generally safer, but you can still get botulism, so be careful, make sure you do it right. Botulism is basically just a bacteria that can make you very, very sick, and you don't want that. But with a pressure canner, the pressure is actually sufficient to bring up the temperature beyond 112 degrees Celsius, and that kills off all the spores of botulism bacteria. So that makes 100% sure that you're not going to have any problems, especially with low acid foods. So low acid foods includes chicken and beef and anything that's oily, for example. So we have two different types of chicken here. I shouldn't show it. So this is, don't mind the fact that the jar is different, they're both 1 litre jars. So this was actually put in raw, and I found that raw is much easier because you don't have to cook it beforehand. Okay, so we started with this one. We roasted 6 chickens in the oven. First piece of advice I have for you is don't put more than 3 into the oven because there's so much water coming out of those chickens that it floods the oven. It can do. There was a lot of water in the bottom of the tray. So you can roast the chickens first and then let them cool down, pick the meat off the bone, and you can use less jars. You can fit more meat in 1 jar. So this is basically 1.5 kilos. All right, well, 1.2 technically without the bones. So, and we put a little bit of brine in it too. When you have cooked meat, when you can cooked meat, you have to add some water, so that, or even chicken stock, for example, you can add, and just make sure that you cover it with liquid. With this, with raw meat, you can actually just put it into the jar, and you can stuff it nearly up to the top. You don't even really need to keep the inch of space, because some of that water will actually come out of the jar as the pressure builds in a pressure canner. And you can see we still have an inch of space there. So this was raw chicken. It's much easier to do. To be honest with you, we don't sterilize the jars. We do wash them before we use them if they're a new jar, or if it's used. We always wash it and we make sure of that. But we put the raw chicken into it, a small bit of salt, we close it and we put it in. And always put all of your jars with the food in it into the pressure cooker cold. First you add some water, there's a line in the bottom. You need to add 3 litres of water into the pressure cooker, cold water. And we use drinking quality water for that. And then you add your jars. And then the water could be up to here after you add all your jars. Make sure you fill it with jars. Don't leave a space. If you don't have enough food to fill the space, you have to put one in with just water. 1 jar with just water, and it's unfortunate, but you just, after a while you get the hang of it and you'll learn how much food it takes to do 1 batch basically. So then you take the weight off. So you close the lid, which has a seal on it. So long term you may need to buy a new rubber seal eventually. So you close your pressure canner and you turn up the heat underneath. We like to use a gas cooker because we can exactly control the heat. Plus it's way cheaper now because electricity's gone up, and this is actually extremely efficient. It's extremely efficient to can food because once it comes to a boil, it takes very little gas to even keep it running. The flame even needs to be on the lowest setting, on the smallest of our burners. So you wait, you turn it up full blast on the biggest burner first, and then you wait until the steam comes up here. Don't walk away from it. Just keep an eye on it, stay in the kitchen, kind of hang around, and just always keep an eye on it. Don't just walk away from it ever, because you want to make sure that there's no problems. They're perfectly safe, by the way. There's absolutely no worries at all about it exploding or whatever. It has a safety valve here, it has a pressure gauge, it has a weight, so you have 3 different safety functions, and you can open it if this button is up. See this button here?
Thanks for watching the video, and if you're looking to participate in one of our workshops, just go to our website. I'll put a link below. Thanks a million, and we'll see you at the next one. Bye bye.